We set up a time to meet prior to when we start. When you show up 3 minutes before you start,
I was here. I was trying to get this thing situated. It sucks.
I show up typically an hour before the show.
Yeah, tell the people why their time is invaluable. Well, it looks like you just found the most downloaded HVAC entertainment podcast in the world. Welcome to the HVAC Overtime Show, hosted by me and a couple of my buddies. And tonight we have a super special guest that is not in the green room. But
yeah, someone has control of the show right now that normally doesn't have control. That would be me. And instead of keeping the guys in the green room for the minute, I just brought everybody up. So, hey, here we are.
Let me flip to the second page of the script.
Wait, so everything's messed up. So now
let's see. Talking points. What'd you guys? Okay, right here we go. Right here we go. Yeah.
This is
all right. Well, we got the guys from Bluon here tonight, everybody. I know everybody in the chat is excited to hear it and see it and talk to these guys. So if you guys do have any questions for Bluon, first off, put them in the chat, capitalize them. We will try to get to them. But yeah, load us up with some questions. These guys are ready to take the heat, take the questions, take the praise, whatever you guys got.
So this last week, I got into a new van at work. So that was a process. And then I've just been trying to get quotes and different things done and just getting ready for AHR. And like, I thought I was prepared, but I don't know why. Like today I'm stressing, like just getting everything together. And then again, I don't know. Can I even land an airplane in Chicago right now, Adam?
Not by yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, unless you have your license, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. Well, let me rephrase that. Can they land airplanes? No, I got like a text message from the airline saying be prepared for delays.
Oh yeah,
so that's gonna be fun.
You should be fine.
Yeah.
Airports do so much preparation every day to make sure that the planes don't just skid off the freeway.
So I'm kind of, I know it's going to be chilly there. So I got some super thick socks and I've got my Ugg boots and I've got a beanie. So I should be good, right? Do I actually have to have pants on or can I wear shorts? Because wintertime here, we just wear shorts with the Ugg boots.
Did you bring your insulated hacky sack?
We don't have insulated hacky sacks. Come on, dude. I'm a realist here. We like original hacky sacks and they got to be worn in for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I think that only ready for California winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Peter and forgive me, it is
Logan Marshall.
Peter and Logan. So where are you guys from as far in the country?
So I'm sitting in Irvine, so about an hour south of LA, not to be confused with LA.
I am in Riverside actually, so I'm 45 minutes from you. So
yeah. We always make sure we don't confuse the two. So we're in Irvine. I live in Laguna, but the office is in Irvine, and then Logan's on the other side of the country.
Yeah, so I'm in South Carolina, so on the opposite side from Pete.
That's cool. Yeah, we always joke because Southern California, we don't know what cold is. Nope. So when I actually talk with friends and different things, like our winters, the low at my house, the lowest it's going to get is 37 degrees, and that's going to be for a short amount of time. And then ours is 50 degrees. So
like we just
spoiled.
Yeah, I spent the first 45 years of my life in New York and Connecticut.
Wow.
Oh, they know what winter's like.
Yeah, and so I used to, I was kind of, relatively tough until I moved out here the last 6 years. Now I go back there and it is a different world, man. You get on that plane, you're like, Jesus, I used to live here. Are you kidding me?
So do you notice like Since you moved from New York to California, has your Starbucks order gotten like twice as long of all the special ingredients you want in it?
New York's pretty expensive.
I feel like that's what happens.
Yeah, remember that? And you guys are old enough for that. Remember that LA story bit way back when, like the half calf, recalf, super calf?
Yeah.
You know, where those adjectives came from. No chance. Just give me a black drip and I'm good to go.
So
Nice.
the hypocrites in here are Adam and Bill because they order the pinkest drinks when they go to the coffee place.
Let me tell you something though. I'm super pumped right now because they just came back with their pistachio latte for winter. It's so good. I'm sorry.
We
Just give me coffee, just black as night.
That's right.
I thought you ordered
That's
a
it.
fruit. No, it was Rick. It was Adam and Rick that ordered fruity.
With their pinkety drinkities.
It was Rick, not Adam. Get it
Yeah.
right.
You did. You ordered a pink drink too, Adam. I remember because the first time I met Adam, we landed in Florida. We went to the symposium. We stayed at a house. Like my wife thought I was crazy because these 3 dudes that I do a YouTube live stream with that I'd never met, we all stayed in like an Airbnb together. And we went into Starbucks the first morning, and the drink that Rick ordered, and then Adam, I know you ordered something weird too.
I know
was
they
like, what
did
is wrong
because
with
they were
you?
holding hands when they did it.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of the symposium, are you guys going to be down at the symposium in Florida in a couple of weeks or no?
No, we'll be at HR, not the symposium. Now we'll be at HR in very large numbers, but that's
many-
a couple weeks. Yeah.
How many guys from Bluon are going to be there with you guys? Like you got the whole crew going. Like
We'll have 12 or 13 this year. We had 20 last year, but it was too many. We actually with 12 we'll be a little bit busy. I mean, our booth gets a little bit crazy at HR if you guys have ever been there. But yeah, we're thinning it down to a small group of 12 or 13.
So does it get crazy because of all the free beer you're handing out, or?
I mean, the beer does
Let's
not
be honest.
go the crazy, but even before, I mean, there's really never a time we don't have 30, 40, 50 people at the booth. So it's it's just chaotic, right? So you can't. Yeah, at the end of the day, you just can't talk. You can talk it nonstop for 8 hours, but it's cool.
Is this an event where a lot of you guys, this is like the first time they've seen each other? Because it seems like a lot of you guys were remote from each other.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of that. We get together quite a bit, so we see each other quite often. But there's some of that too. There's definitely some of and we stay in a big giant Airbnb, all 12 of us. So it's a big, kind of a cool gathering and good bonding and whatnot. It's a lot of fun.
So I do want to get into the refrigerant story, and I want to get into the new tech support kind of segue into that. But I was thinking of a question right now. When it comes to these events, like the AHRs and the different things like that, have you guys noticed? Because something that I've noticed is like AHR in general, it's completely evolved from what it used to be. It was never really meant for the general public. Like when it was original, were you guys going to it before then? Like when it was just more or less for manufacturers? And
I mean, this is we went in, our first one was 2018. So 18, 19, then we had the one we skipped in COVID. So I guess we've been to 5 or 6.
So I think by 2018, it was already kind of geared more towards the public, and they made a shift to where it actually became something that was entertaining for people to go to. And, it's a great way, surprisingly. And this is something that blows my mind. And I don't know if you guys can grasp this concept or not, but no, you guys probably can because you deal with the tech support side. But there is a large number of contractors and technicians that still get amazed when they go to these shows. They're like, what is this? And what, I've never seen this, or I'll put something in a video that I make and people are like, I've never seen that before. And it's like, that's a common thing. Like it's very interesting how secluded some parts of the country is and how certain technicians like Joe up in Canada, they don't have modern electricity up there. So
it's funny. It's funny because
it's true.
No, I don't know if it's because it was in my head because we knew we were having them on the show, but I actually used them for some information on a slant fin boiler.
You used Bluon, Joe?
Yes.
And my God.
And I got what I needed. I just needed a manual. I needed something. I went to this job. It's been so long, and I needed something to read. And you guys saved me that day. But I realized, I know you want to get into it. That's when I realized as well, this master mechanic AI. And I was thinking about if you guys wouldn't be getting involved with that. And I guess to answer my own question, you guys already have AI part of the Bluon Corp. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't know anything about it. So I don't know if you guys want to talk about it or.
It's awesome. I mean, yeah, we can jump into it before we get into the. I don't really care which direction we go. But the AI,
we're everywhere.
Yeah,
yeah, we're everywhere.
Yeah, screw it. The AI is amazing. So we've had 30, 40 techs on staff at any given time. It fluctuates, and our biggest conundrum over the last 5 years, and you guys know this drill, is how do you get the wisdom out of these guys' heads into some system so that other people can benefit from their experience? Because it's such a shame, right? Some guy with 45 years of field experience just leaves, right? It's like, well, shit, where'd all that knowledge go?
Yeah.
It's always drive me nuts, right? We got all these guys that are in their 60s that are just amazing, right? But you don't want to lose their knowledge. And so that was always our big question. How the hell do you preserve that knowledge? And as my partner Matt says, we were either incredibly smart or incredibly lucky, probably more towards the lucky. And during the last 5 years, we've done about 120,000 tech support calls, from everything under the sun, from mini splits to 1,000-ton centrifuge chillers and everything in between. And we recorded all of those calls. We transcribed all those calls and all that data we had. And then when AI came around, if you know anything about how AI works, it's called a large language model. And really what it does is it takes previously stated information and reconstitutes it to match the current question, and then puts it into proper context to answer the question. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that's kind of the basic principle of it.
Yeah.
It's like really kind of crazy math how it works. We got like we call him an alien who works with us, this guy Adam, who put this whole thing together. He's remarkable. So we're able to take all those tech support calls and then build this AI off of them. So when you talk to Master Mechanic, you're really talking to 35 of the best techs out there in tech support, and you're tapping into previous questions and answers they have asked before. So you really get the benefit of practical solutions that aren't like academic or dissertations, but really like step-by-step what to do to very specific application-based questions. So we sort of were able to do what we always wanted to do, preserve all this wisdom, put it into an AI, and let the community have access to it to answer questions in real time. Really cool. It lets us scale their knowledge in ways we never would have been able to do before.
Yeah, and we all know that, technicians, there's only two kinds of technicians, guys. I mean, it's either the older veteran technician that, like Pete said, he takes all that knowledge off with him when he retires and never shares it with anybody. Or there's that one that wants to help the generations underneath to be able to help elevate them and make them better.
Absolutely.
That's right.
It's hard to imagine that because, yes, we all came from a time that social media wasn't around, us technicians right here, but we've been involved with the social media side for so long. It still baffles me sometimes when I run into someone that's like, I literally have emails and I saved them from people saying, stop sharing that. I paid a lot of money to learn that. And it's like, I responded politely. I was like, I'm really sorry you did, but I did too, and had a lot of stress, and I'm trying to help the next guy, so just put it out there. But there's still a lot of people.
With your AI technology, is it, I don't know how to properly word this, but is it like a self-learning program? Because I assume when you have this many different people from all over the country talking to one central, for lack of better terminology, computer system, is it able to like differentiate what one guy will call things or how he describes things, and like another guy might describe it differently? Because I mean, if you talk to Joe long enough, you won't know English because
he speaks Canadian English.
Yeah,
it is literally different.
It is an incredibly good question, and the challenge of building this AI is no small task. I mean, it took our team a hell of a lot of tens of thousands of hours to build it. And what you're talking about was the biggest challenge. And luckily for us, we've got techs from all over the country, right? From different geographies, different expertise, guys that are, mini split guys to mechanics out in the field for chillers and all over the place, geothermal, you name it. And they call everything different things. And our team spent months tagging what we call like a lexicon so that different words have the same meaning. And the way that the AI works is it will associate them together. So it can do like synthesis based upon the most proximate word based upon a historical pattern. So it does a great job of understanding it.
Almost like how Google works, where if you put in certain keywords, like the spiders throughout the internet will go find these other keywords and topics throughout your platform, and then bring the information, I assume, and sort it out in milliseconds.
Yeah, it's sort of like that. It's if I told you how AI worked, it's really kind of creepy. It's like a so if I can bore you for 30 seconds, it'll kind of freak you out. It's a little bit out in the weeds. So think of like you have a 3-dimensional space, and you've got the word dog is related to pig, is related to horse, is related to cow, is related to this, and then every other one you put in there is another dimension of space. So the AI has 155,000 dimensions. So if you could get your head wrapped around that kind of space, which humans can't do, and then every one of those things is connected to other words based upon an angle of how close it is related to that word, and everything exists in this huge matrix of words and concepts. And so then the AI produces an image. So your question actually produces like a shape, like 155 dimension shape. That shape gets shoved into the LLM and tries to find the biggest fit. That fit is then finds the answer to the question that's most relevant based upon that angular, super complicated geometric object. And then that gets filtered back through a syntax producer that makes it into a sentence. But it's geometry at its base level, but in like this crazy hyperdimensional geometric computing, which everybody knew about 20 years ago, but the computing power didn't exist to be able to compute it all fast enough to make it practical. But it's crazy.
I've never heard AI explained in that way. It's interesting. It is kind of cool, but it also feels like Doctor Strange just told me about some weird stuff going on.
I'll bet you that's what the Egyptians would have explained it like when they originally invented it.
Amen to that, man. I like your guy.
I'm kind of curious. Like, so do you have somebody sitting there programming? And I know you said there's little arms that associate things, and what's the closest relevant topics to whatever somebody typed in? Is that something that has to be done manually, or is that the whole point of the AI, where it learns this and it kind of figures these angles out and the association
it grows by itself?
Yeah. It does grow by itself. So it's a neural net kind of an experience, which are these layers of complexity that gets added to. Now we're always tinkering it with it. So like we see the questions and answers every day, and if we can pick one out that is not quite right, then we'll go in and try to associate new context that will allow it to find that similarity. So it's always evolving based on that feedback. When we first started, it was like maybe 70% accurate. Now, to the best of our knowledge, like 96, 97. But it's always getting better, and we're always adding to it. So like the live tech support calls we have are added to it. So that new information adds to the field of potential outputs. But
and what you ask it today, it's going to have a different, more close to correct answer, maybe even tomorrow, because it's learned exactly what you've asked it. Now, the funny thing, back to what you were talking about there, Bill, too, is like understanding language and lingo. So it does understand our lingo as technicians. So if you ask it about a squirrel cage, it knows you're talking about a blower wheel.
See, that's great. Even like supply house guys sometimes don't really understand like the lingo I call something and versus what they call it or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the most challenging part of getting that right. But no, we were sort of blessed because we had such a geographically diverse set of technicians that were answering the support calls. So we had a wide breadth of different ways of saying things that let the AI sort of figure it out.
Now, go ahead, Bill.
I was just going to say, and as far as I know, this is also in Spanish. Like you can do all the same stuff in Spanish as well, huh?
You can actually do it in any language you want because it's overlaid with a open AI. So you can talk to it in German, Mandarin, whatever the hell you want to talk to it.
Interesting, because
we'll pick it up.
Like the translation between certain words isn't always literal. So there's a lot of context to whatever it is you're talking about that will influence what that word actually means. And to do that and then also have all these other variables introduced, that's
pretty
mind-boggling.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think, there's definitely the using native English, you're going to get your best results because of exactly what you said earlier. Some of those translations aren't precise, right? And so you're going to lose a little bit as you translate because it will translate it back to English to find the answer and then translate it back to the speaking language of the user.
I went down a rabbit hole, possibly considering having someone dub my entire YouTube channel in Spanish. And then once I did that research, I found people that would do it. But then I had to do research and find someone that could listen to it. That's a technician that could go through and fix everything. And then it just turned me off on it. And I said, this isn't worth it for me.
No,
too much.
Sorry, Spaniards.
So I have a question. I kind of want to rewind a little bit to the beginning of Bluon. I remember thinking when I first heard about it, because there was like tons of promotion everywhere. I saw online advertisements in different trade publications,
free hats and stuff.
But like I was like, what is Bluon? There's all this stuff, but what is Bluon? And finding out it's like a drop-in refrigerant. And I started like, what is it dropped in for? And then you learn about it and like, are these guys smoking crack? Like, this is an R22 drop-in. Am I right on that?
No oil change? Yeah.
I mean, without the word Bluon, not that. So R458A, which we make, which is no longer our primary business, but we do make it. That is let me tell you the origin story, which will explain that because
and we also got to clarify the term drop-in. The term drop-in is something that's not really used anymore because how everybody misunderstood it. The term drop-in never meant you could mix it. The term drop-in meant it was an easy changeover without, and so anyways, but to clarify that, but go ahead.
Exactly. I wish you could be speaking to some people 5 years
online.
Ago. So the short story is that the company was founded almost 10 years ago, initially as a chemical sort of R&D company, which was on a pursuit of a better replacement for R22. And so we spent 4 or 5 years in the lab, produced thousands of formulas, tested them. I won't bore you with that. Came out with R4588, which is also known as TDX20 in 2017. Got our EPA and ASHRAE approval. EPA approval was we'll call that a hell of an escapade on its own right. Getting the politics aligned there. That took. I was like,
well, it's because you're going against some big fish.
Honeywell. Did that? I don't know if you're Italian descent. Did that help you? You had to know somebody in politics.
We had to get 20 congressmen and senators to help us unblockade the EPA because EPA was
really
because Honeywell and Keymore is basically control.
That's a lot of bribes, man.
They're big players. Let's just say that.
If we weren't on air, I'd tell you the real story. It's
that's right. You gotta do what you gotta do, Peter.
It's scary. Yeah. It's scary. I would say when we got approved, it was the best day, and I'm at the moment in my life is also the worst day. So you realize how
many fingers did you have to break to get that done?
A lot. So So anyways, 2017 comes along. We get out in the market. We had a ton of demand pent up. Because I come from the commercial real estate world. A lot of commercial real estate guys want to move forward retrofits. Because TDR4 saves 20% on energy. It's a fantastic product. So we had all this demand pent up. We get out in the market in the field, and we run into you guys. We run into technicians who are like, I want no part of another blend, no part of another replacement. I've broken too many compressors. We want no part of it. And so we were like, well, shit, we have to get 325,000 technicians to be, adopt and become a champion of this product overnight. How the hell do you do that? And of course, the big problem with blends was nobody gave you instructions of what to do with this unit, that unit, the other unit. They're like, here's a tank of gas, have at it. It's your business. So we basically took that on our own. And luckily we were naive at the time. We were kind of ignorant. So we didn't know there was millions of model numbers. How many could there be? 10,000, 20,000 deal. So we started to catalog the R22 units and get all of the manuals, service bulletins, technical diagrams, wiring diagrams, troubleshooting guides, all of the stuff you would need to assess it. First hired our first techs on staff and started to produce retrofit instructions for tens of thousands of units to be easily seen on an app. Then we put the app in the world in 2018, along with all this information, all the manuals and whatnot that went along with us figuring out those instructions. Then we allowed people to have access to it, but they had to take a test at the time to prove they knew what a blend was and how to operate that particular aspect. And we were blown away by the thirst for that sort of brand agnostic encyclopedia of technical information. 5, 10, 20, 30, 50,000 techs started using the app, not for the retrofit instructions, but for the data, right? For the manual. And so we were like, holy shit, there's a huge thirst for this information that obviously nobody's giving because there wouldn't be this many people using it so quickly. And so we kind of twisted the business immediately in 2018 towards support. Like, okay, there's a massive need to support these techs with brand agnostic support and information in the field when they need it. And that was the birth of the modern Bluon. It came out of a refrigerant, but the refrigerant was the catalyst that let us learn about this brand agnostic information first. Then we started doing tech support and additional information and parts and materials and incremental levels of support and tools and all that kind of stuff. But that all started with trying to get folks to use our refrigerant and giving them retrofit instructions, model number based, but brand agnostic. And who else would create a brand agnostic library except a refrigerant maker? Because you wouldn't do it, right? It would be a fool's errand.
Real quick on the subject of your, I would call it like a library of all these manuals and things. What is the limit, or is there limitations? Like how deep in, like, do you guys go from chillers to boilers to rooftop units to residential? Like what's on the spectrum here?
The whole gambit. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Anything that we've collected or scraped or gained access to over the years, I mean, it's in there. And I mean, it's an ever-growing library of knowledge. I mean, it's up to 425,000 plus now. And it's just going to continue to expand as we get new models and new products in the years to come.
Do you guys have
tight are these refrigerant manufacturers, though? Are they willing to give you data? Or are they just, are you guys just using the public data?
Well, it's not the refrigerant, it's the models.
I'm sorry, not refrigerant manufacturers. Yeah, equipment manufacturers. Sorry.
So it's funny. We always talk about, we scraped our way to relevancy. So 5 years ago, Trane gave me a cease and desist letter, and now they're right. So that's the way it works, right? Before you're big enough, they're saying, stop touching my data, and then once you're big enough, they're like, hey, we want to give you our data, so make sure it's accurate for your community. So now we have pretty much cooperation with pretty much everybody. So we get data from OEMs, from aftermarkets, from distributors. We also scrape public sources. We bought a company called XREF, who was the largest historical archive of data going back to 1985. So we have by far the best data in the industry that's brand agnostic. And what Logan said, it's 425,000 core model numbers, which represent about 20 million active model numbers in the field, ranging from pretty much anything. We get a little weak in the refrigeration space. We got a decent coverage there, but we're like 90+% in the HVAC space.
Because honestly, like rooftop package units is always my frustration. Like I don't do residential. I'm on roofs quite a bit. And now I'll be getting into boilers, and I can't even imagine like rooftop units. The manual's always gone, or it's just soaked in water, and it's it's just paper mache by the time I get to it, and I can never find manuals in a timely manner. So, dude,
open the Bluon app, man. Just type in the model number. 3 strikes. You got it.
Thinking about it, I think I might just do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all there. Package units are kind of our specialty. Anything from 5 to 100 tons is going to be in there almost damn straight.
Yeah, now that you're working on boilers, we have a large load of boilers inside the app as well.
Awesome. Yeah,
nice.
And you're not only going to find the manuals, but you'll find a lot of times we pull the wiring diagram, the troubleshooting guides out, so it's easier to find. And then we also have the bill of materials and part numbers and specs for every part in that piece of equipment.
I think I used you guys about a couple years ago for, I think it was a climate mask for the wiring diagram. Came up to dip switches or something I needed. I can't remember, but you guys had it there.
Yeah,
and you have, in the parts breakout, I noticed a lot of times you have pictures when you're doing search for the part numbers, so you can actually see, hey, that is the correct part.
Yep.
Right. I have a question selfishly, just because I've been doing quite a bit of residential design work recently, and I think a struggle that anyone has that does design work for other people and works with multiple different brands is performance data.
Yep.
Have you guys looked at compiling like a list of all the different OEM performance data on the equipment?
We've looked at it, but we haven't tackled it.
Just to clarify a little bit more, just so you understand where he's going, Adam's diving deep into the building science side of things. So he's really getting into the weeds with we're not talking just a quick load calculation. We're talking in-depth load calculations. And we're basically not finding any of that data. Manufacturers,
they usually put it behind like a password. I don't want to call it a paywall, but you have to be, a lot of times you have to be like a dealer and have like a login to get this, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, so this isn't just in the service manual that you're talking about. This is
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's deeper. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. You know, we've looked at it. We don't have that data. I mean, that's a big lift, and that's also a lot of that stuff is behind the behind the manufacturer's public wall, right? So then you got to get into legal treaties.
Well, basically, it just becomes dealers helping dealers is what it is. I mean, because dealers have access to some of that information. So you just basically, hey, I know this guy. He's not my competitor. He's over here. You know, I'll get his dealer information for that, and then vice versa. Well, I kind of wanted to ask this. And so manufacturers' technical support, I'm going to go out on a limb and say historically hasn't been the greatest. Okay. There is good tech support technicians, but they're people just like us. So you get good ones, you get bad ones, you struggle with it. You know, it's got to make you guys feel good to know that your tech support is blowing up as far as people wanting to call you back versus not wanting to call manufacturers because they're going to sit on hold for hours at a time. And the real question amongst all of this is, are the manufacturers noticing that? And I mean, have they reached out to you?
Yes, almost all of them have.
Oh, wow. Good question.
Yeah, in fact, Train routinely sends calls our way. But I noticed a question on the screen. I just want to answer it here. Yeah, our equipment goes back 30, 40 years. So our sweet spot's going to be 15, 20 years. That's the stuff that we have that no one else has. It's actually not available. You can't find it. Yep.
Right.
So back to the point that you guys are really busy with the tech support calls and that, how long, like typically is somebody sitting on hold before they could actually get a human being on the line? 2, 3, 4 minutes.
Wow. Yeah.
No,
average.
Go ahead, Logan.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
So I think our average last year was like 2 minutes was the average wait time.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean that when you start talking about, people starting to take notice, that's where everybody's taking notice at is when the technicians are in a crunch in the field and they only have to wait 2 minutes or less.
Yeah, because there's some of these OEMs where like it'll be 2 days later and I'll get a call back finally and be like, oh, we're calling you back about this ice machine or whatever.
I'm not there now, right?
It's not just the speed, which we are, we're super stoked about. But when you make that call, you're calling from the app on the model. So when that call shows up to one of our guys, they know what you're working on. The call gets routed to someone with expertise on that model. So you're getting someone who knows what you're working on, who knows that equipment cold. And then we charge per issue, not per call. So if that ticket stays open all day, it's the same charge. So you can call the same guy back. It's that thing that stays open, the connection. So if you have to get back to him 2 hours later, it's still all part of the same ticket until the issue is resolved. And the technology has improved. So we've got like low latency video conferencing and lets our guys see what you're seeing, even if you're in a basement or an attic. It's pretty cool. But just for clarity, I want to make one thing clear. Like we moved to a paid model, right? So our tech support is a charge per issue. Yeah.
So is that? I want to figure out, because a lot of technicians, are they paying for it themselves, or is there some type of company model where a company could get set up with Bluon and cover all their techs?
Yeah, it's the company model. So we've moved to a company model last 4 or 5 months. So it's called Bluon for Business. The companies sign up, their techs get access to everything, unlimited use of everything, and then they have a ability to use tech support based upon that company plan.
Cool. Interesting. I didn't know that you guys went to that model. See, I thought you were still are you still doing the referrals though? Like the supply houses, are they still, if people are buying from the supply houses, do they get a discount? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, let's unpack that. It's a really confusing piece for the market because of the pivot. So, our initial plan, let's just be transparent because I can't be anything but, we initially, set out to, with a very egalitarian perspective. We're like, hey, we're going to try to make this app free for the world and let the suppliers pay for it. That was the original plan. Unfortunately, the counter staff are a massive problem because our technology requires a counter staff to be somewhat on the ball, right? Because if they just ignore the request, techs get pissed off, it doesn't work. And about 80% of counter staff are not on the ball. And so it was creating a lot of negative feedback inside the community. You don't want to wait 20 minutes to hear back from somebody on your app. You're like, screw you, I'm going to drive somewhere else or figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and with that being said, we're working on integration, which lets that mitigates the counter staff. You can just go right into the ERP, grab what you want, and get out without needing to talk to John at the counter, use our data to get there. But we're building that as we speak, an integrated solution. So right now we're basically putting an envelope around the whole package, tech support, AI, our basic app, as well as our replacement data that we used to sell that we still do sell to distributors, but we're now letting contractors get their hands on that, which lets you look up any model, any bill of materials, any part, and find the 20 compatible replacement parts for that part. It's not on the app. That data has been reserved for distributors, but now it's available for contractors who sign on to our Bluon for Business model and get access to that data, which just really helps them out in a big way.
That's interesting. Yeah, because, going back to the counter staff, again, they're humans just like us. So there's good guys, there's bad guys, there's a mix of everything. But, when it comes to supply houses for the last, I'd say, at least 5 years, I basically do all my own research. I find part numbers. I go directly into the supply house's website. If they have more than a quantity of 2, I'm just heading over there. If they have 1, that's when I'll call and say, you guys have this part. But I've eliminated a lot of the counter staff. Now there still is guys, but I know what questions they can handle. I've kind of learned my supply houses. And that's something I think technicians in general, if you frequent the same supply houses, you need to learn that not everybody's going to be and there's certain questions you can ask certain people, and don't be afraid to walk in and say, hey, can I speak to Bob? Because Bob knows what you're dealing with, just
absolutely.
One of your member or whatever viewers just typed something there that we said tech support would always be free. We never said that. We said Bluon would always be free. We never said tech support would always be free. I mean, tech support was costing us around $1 million a year to offer that service. And so that's wrong. $1 million a month. Rewind.
Damn.
So that is a hell of a thing to supply the public. We did it for 4 years on the come. We burned through about $30 million giving that service to the market. And so it's not sustainable. I mean, it costs us about, on the average of, we break even around $25, $28 a call. That's what it costs us to supply that information. So we're charging just barely above break even as support, as part of the ecosystem. But I think, it's just not feasible to provide support at that skill level at no cost. I mean, and I just want to make it clear, we did always say that the access to the basic service of the app would always be free, and it will. But to be able to get this incremental services, which are far more beneficial, we got to make some money.
I mean, just think about the time saving every week. I mean, it might sound a bit cliche, but just the time saving of the manuals. Like, it takes me a long time to Google manuals. Then I have to download this app, and I got to watch the advertisements just to get the manual for free. And then the tech support feature, the AI chat feature. I don't know. What, 10 hours, 15 hours a week?
Yeah, that we say if you can't save 5 hours a week per tech, you're doing something wrong with our platform. And of course, that's if you save 5 hours and I'm charging you $40 a month per tech, that's a song, right? In terms of you're going to make 20, 30, 40x on that. Yeah.
So Chris Hughes is big in the building science community, and he's bringing up the point again. A lot of us that I've just got this slight introduction to the building science side, but when you start going down that path, you really start thinking a lot more about the science behind everything. And this important data is an untapped market right now when it comes to the building science. And building science is the answer to a lot of our problems, because we are all realizing that everything is oversized. Everywhere we go is oversized. And something that people aren't, and there's a lot of issues in this industry, and a lot of it's lack of education. It's lack of information out there, something as simple as doing, and I'm going off on a tangent, but something as simple as doing a load calculation.
I knew that.
People don't realize that every load calculation has fudge factor built into it. So stop adding that. Stop thinking and looking and saying it calls for a 2-ton, but I don't trust that. They're already saying that in the damn load calculation, So, that's one of the big things is people, the industry itself needs to start thinking about the science behind it, instead of just changing this, making it cold,
Yeah.
That kind of makes me think. Sorry to keep interrupting you guys. seems like we're just hogging the show tonight. But
Yeah,
do you guys have like a team of people that maybe just sits around with this AI and kind of just pumps questions into it, kind of tests its capabilities? Because like what Chris is talking about, like what if we were just sitting around like, hey, AI chat, give me a manual decalculation on this. I have this, this, and this, and this. Like, what do you guys have anything like where you're just testing limits and then growing from there, or is it just you guys test the limits via people using it?
It's all of the above. So we've got plans to add incremental features and capabilities to the AI. We're working on a lot of ways for it to be able to do better math, for load calcs and stuff like that. It's a little more complicated than you would think. But we have one of our guys in our team who's a 48-year vet who knows everything about anything. He is sort of the master of quality control. So he asks it, hundreds of questions, and he also pans through the questions for the week. We get 3,000 or 4,000 questions a day, now on the AI. So it's it's answering a ton of questions in the field. But yeah, it's a constant battle to be examining how it's responding and making sure that we're giving the correct answers. But yeah, there's a team. We've got a team of 3 people that are dedicated to the AI, both in making sure it's correct, but also adding features to it and adding capability. So we get like a lot of requests. Hey, can you have the AI do X? The one that we're working on now is to be able to search all error codes for all machines in the world effectively, and be able to return that error code in real time, but it's by saying a couple words. So that's a current project we're underway. We'll have that probably up and running by April. But in terms of some of the load calcs, it'd be cool to find out like exactly what you're looking for. All of it's doable. We just got to know precisely what feature you're looking for, and then look at the complexity and bring it online.
Yep. Yeah, the biggest struggles. I mean, that's what we're looking for on that side, and we'll be able to see what we can get done.
So if we went into the BlueOn app right now and we're like, hey, BlueOn AI chat, what's the best HVAC podcast around? What would you tell us?
Well, it's funny. I'm glad you asked that question. So when the first version went live, before we put it out to the public, it was a sassy AI because it had it had no filter, right? So it just answered directly. So it cursed a ton, sounded like it had a very, very politically minded perspective. You could ask it political questions; it would be very direct with you.
Is this a woman asking me the question? Because I don't understand it.
Interesting question here is, fucking Bill.
That was a late reply. I like that.
God damn it! You freaking messed up my train of thought, Bill.
Hey, I'm all about women in the trades. Don't get me wrong.
You're an asshole, dude. You just messed me on. That was one of those things I wasn't.
I got a
supposed
little
to laugh
9-year-old
at.
HVAC chick myself.
Yeah.
We had to train the AI to be a little bit more PC and also answer things without cussing so much.
That's where I was going to go. Okay, so a real question for you guys. You guys have always been a very relaxed company as far as your culture goes. You guys aren't afraid to come onto a live stream and cuss. Like, okay, so real question, how hard is it to be a company in California and do that kind of stuff? Like, do you get backlash from people?
Oh, you're getting ready to have Pete go off.
Okay, because this is something that's blowing my mind right now.
Are you tired of everything being made of soy?
It's got to be so hard.
Let's remember we're in Orange County, so we're in the last bastion of sanity in California. That's decreasing. But there is sane people in Orange County, particularly in like Newport, Huntington, Dana Point, Laguna, not so much. But there's some more sane people here. But no, it's difficult. I would say California's rough for a bunch of reasons. But we're also venture capital funded, and so there's a lot of
concerned people. There's a lot of people that
And so what Logan's laughing at is I've gotten 2, maybe 4 now requests. I'm not gonna get too crazy on this podcast, but where they give me a request of, hey, we need you to poll your employees and find out their race, their culture, and their sexual orientation. I'm like, fuck you. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I get where you're going with that.
Yeah. And so I basically just sent it back to him in a ripped up envelope, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I think it's actually illegal to do that. I don't know where you guys are coming from. So yeah, you just got to be able to push back. And for example, when the when the mandate came out, or the almost mandate came out for the vaccine, I told the whole company, it's like, there's no fucking way in hell I'm gonna make anybody do that. So yeah, no, we'll
keep it at 99 people.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's a little more difficult to be in California for sure. And we talk about it quite a bit, but it's tough to leave because we've got
weather. I mean,
the weather is tough to leave.
We're having a really bad winter, guys, and it's about 50 degrees. So
50 degrees.
We'll ask Pete if he wants to leave California next week after we leave Chicago.
Yeah,
exactly.
Is it true? I know you're talking about your investors. Is it true that like Leonardo DiCaprio is like pumping money into Bluon? Does that have any, or is that like a wives' tale?
No, that's true. That's true. I mean, I wouldn't say pumping money. He was an early investor back in 2016. So yeah, he is an investor. He's on the cap table. He's got a decent stake.
Nice.
Really? I didn't know that. I thought that was just a.
No, I got to actually spend a day with him in his house. It's pretty interesting way back when. Super fascinating guy, smarter than I thought. It was really. I walked through a bunch of the numbers and how we could have an effect on just environmental benefit. The guy's got a freaking 10-foot T-Rex in his front door when you walk in, like one of the only fully assembled skeleton fossils. You're like walking, you're like, okay.
We call that fuck you money is what it is. He has fuck you money, and basically
that's like the same kind of guy that would just buy pretend money with real money.
You have to
I wish
understand,
I still had it here.
Yeah, you have to understand the magnitude of Pete saying that he's actually a really smart guy too, because we can get into our backgrounds a little bit and everything there too.
Right.
I think it's a good time to do that, Pete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like talking about myself. I don't. No, my background, I was a applied physicist, worked in the fusion research with the government back in 92, 3, 4. That's where I cut my teeth. And then that whole program got shut down, which meant I was an unemployed physicist in Manhattan, which is not a good thing to be, to try to feed yourself. So that's how I randomly got into commercial real estate, trying to just eat in 94 after that program got shut down.
That's a weird segue.
Yeah. Well, I just took it for the summer. I figured run the numbers. These guys want me to run numbers. I'm like, I'll run them. You can pay me. But then I got into commercial real estate. These guys were making huge money and they were dumb as a box of rocks. And I'm like, oh man, this is an opportunity. And then, I was there for like 16, 17 years, ended up, building around 30 billion of corporate facilities around the country before I had a midlife crisis at 40 and wanted to get back into science and research. That's what got me back into the Bluon thing. And then, the rest is history. But it all starts from a little kid working at in a plasma fusion research facility for the government.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now
what's my boring story?
Yeah, go for it. Let's hear it.
So started in the trades at 14 years old. So small family residential business, dragging tools, tool fetching, installing, service, sales, operations, and then jumped over to the commercial side. Playing with one of the biggest boys in the country there, doing pretty much same thing, operations and kind of carrying through on projects, and then come over here with Pete.
Cool. So are you one of the guys who these techs could call?
He used to be.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was. Yeah, so I take a lot of pride and passion in that. Like, I love helping technicians. I've always been one that wanted to share and just give back and be able to help them, because I was one of those guys that was always kind of questioning and answering my father-in-law. He was my mentor at that time. So he was catching all these phone calls that was keeping him away from driving business because they were coming from me. So, yeah.
Just to satisfy my curiosity, what is your official title at the company, Logan?
So I'm the director of contractor alliances and events. So anything that's forward facing with the contractors, just being the ambassador there to be able to help them. So, yep. Logan
knows everybody. It's remarkable to me the amount of people that you just name anybody you meet, like, oh yeah, I know that guy. It's like unbelievable, regardless of where they come from, anywhere in the industry, somehow Logan knows them. So yeah, he's our basically our net that's out there attracting contractors to be able to bring them into the funnel to show them what we got and how we can
Yeah, I
help.
thought that was like a lack of better terminology, like a Mexican thing. Like half my family is Mexican. And like when I'm talking to one, they're like, oh yeah, I know so and so Rodriguez and this. And like, yeah, oh yeah, I know him from way back in the other side of the world. I'm like, how do you they know everybody? Like it's mind blowing.
Just like
This is one of those
Canadians,
moments that I'm
dude.
not
They
laughing
think
again.
one Canadian knows all the Canadians.
Well, that's another good thing too. So I've always been that type. It didn't matter what position I was in. You know, I was never afraid to reach out to someone that was at a level that I wanted to be at. So, you know, there's a lot of that going on now with a lot of the changes that we have coming up in the industry, a down market, whatever it may be. You know, there's a lot of contractors out there that are seeking knowledge, that need help. And that's all they need to do really for that first step is just start asking guys that are not scared to share their information and just show you how to get there.
Mhm.
Because everybody's going to, I mean, there's so many people in the trade that's helped me along the way that, you know, it's only right that I try to do the same.
And
So
with
I
the
have a
way that
couple-
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I have a two-part question for you guys. Number one, I wanted to ask I'd be interested to hear like what the company's mission statement is. Like what is your goals as a company? Why are you doing what you're doing? And then also one thing that I've noticed in the past handful of years is there's different industry leaders that are kind of working together and partnering together to kind of level up residential HVAC. And you can kind of see this across the board with Measure Quick, the Energy Conservatory, ACA, all these HVAC school, all these different organizations are working together. And, you know, there is a like a ground roots, I would guess you would call it, movement right now called Better HVAC. And are you guys a part of anything like that?
Not formally. I mean, we work with with Jim, and Jim and I are really close friends at Measure Quick. So he and I we work really well together.
They're integrated, right? Measure
Well,
Quick.
we have an integration, but we're working on we have an integration that's really focused on the refrigerant. Lets you bring that information over, and there's a workflow in Measure Quick to install.
Right.
But we're really there's a much bigger picture there that we're working on.
Cool. That's cool.
Because Measure Quick is the shit, right? It's a spectacular.
It's good app.
Yeah, Jim is the man. I mean,
He is good.
He's also a spectacular human being, just a great person, which is why we're so it's such an affinity for him. He's not out for anything else. He's out just to help people and help the trade, and that's his mission, right? I think we're very similar. I mean, we're really our mission statement is to upgrade the HVAC industry, right? Because there's so many parts of it that are so outdated and operate like the 90s. There's been such data hoarding. The distributors are hoarding data, OEMs hoard data. So we want to elevate the industry by really two things: data and support, right? By making sure that all the information is available to everybody that needs it, and then that support is available when needed. And as a result of that, what we're really doing at the core of it is we're increasing the throughput of the industry, right? Because we know one thing: there's a skilled labor shortage. It's not getting better. We know that there's going to be more work, not less work.
Oh yeah.
We know the industry needs to increase its efficiency dramatically to keep up with that. And, right now, we always talk about the tech billable efficiency being around 35, 40%. I mean, 60% of the time, you're not doing something that's directly correlated to building a job. You're doing something else. So we want to take that something else and compress it to some smaller number than 60%, so that those numbers get big fast, right? You pull 10% out of that, that's like adding 35% more people to the trade. Right. So you can really have a big effect on the skilled labor shortage by making techs 4, 5, 6 hours more efficient per week. That's a cannonball. That's a domino effect. And now suppliers are making more money. OEMs are making more money. Everybody's making more money. So we have really no enemies because everybody benefits by this efficiency and this upgrade within like the throughput of the trade.
Yep.
I got a question for Logan. And is there anything like what surprised you the most when you started doing tech support for Bluon, as far as technicians calling in asking for your help? Like, what was the biggest surprise about them that you learned?
I mean, there were a lot of things there. I mean, I was already helping guys like locally around me doing that. So I already kind of seen some of the lack of knowledge and maybe, the lesson skills. So we all know, kind of like Pete was saying, we need bodies in trucks. So, you know, the amount of time that we have to train those bodies to get them in that truck is very shortened. So I think my biggest thing that was an eye opener there was the lack of knowledge in the industry. Guys are moving with a lot of hesitancy. They're scared to do that next step that they think they need to do. And that's kind of where, you know, our tech support and everything was able to help guide them, but not only just guide them to show them what's wrong and why they're experiencing it. That's the key for us, was actually showing them the why, not the what. So, yeah, it's just a lack of knowledge.
So now, with the one more quick question about the tech support stuff, and I don't mean to ignore you over there, Peter. But you know, I do the same thing. Like, I help people a little bit, and something that I struggle with, I don't know if it's just in my mind, is oftentimes I forget that people don't think like me. And so when I'm trying to help someone and explain something, it takes me a minute, and it probably comes off the wrong direction. I know I do that to a lot of people, but my brain doesn't process it fast enough, and I forget that I'm not talking to myself. Like, did you struggle with that?
He does talk to himself a lot.
Yeah, well, that's
yeah. I think for me personally, I mean, one of the main things that I focused on, which was something that, you know, I was, like I said, I was blessed with great mentors, is whenever I would actually talk to those guys, that's one of our key things, is we kind of de-escalate everybody from the situation they're in when they're on the phone with us, because 9 times out of 10, when they call us, they're pissed. Like, they're beat,
riled up.
They've already exhausted most of their efforts, you know, so they're trying to figure out what it is so they can get home to their family or on to the next job. So, I mean, one of the things that I used to do there was I would just tell them, hey, slow down, let's zoom out. What actually brought you to this call in the first place, so I can get the backstory to see what's actually going on here. So, and that's where we would normally start at.
And for me, I think, you know, we backstory is really important too. Sorry, Peter, go ahead.
No, it's all good, man. We teach our guys like a very not like regimented, but block process to tackle a call. And the guys we hire have to be able to do 3 things innately, right? Number 1, they've got to be able to de-escalate people inherently. Number 2, they have to get like general life satisfaction out of helping people. That's got to be kind of like how they're wired. Like, that's how they get their energy, their juice, right, is helping people. And number 3, they've got to be able to visualize situations in ways that most people can't, right, to be able to really understand what the problem is. But if you take someone that has gifted in those 3 types of things and you give them like a very basic process, you know, we have like 95% plus 5-star ratings on our 100,000 calls. So it's you know, we're doing something right because we're going about it the right way, and we don't like rush people. We meet them where they're at, and we make sure we de-escalate them. That's the key. You got to get someone calm before you can help them. You can't help them get pissed off.
And I know we take pride when those younger guys call in. Like, that's the fun part for us, because we actually get to take even that short amount of time that we have them on the phone, and like I said, actually produce some training for them. So hopefully the next time they experience that issue, they don't have to call tech support. They can move on and get it done.
Definitely. Absolutely. And I know Peter's here, Logan, but you have to admit there was a couple frustrating same calls for basics that must have frustrated you. Come on. We're all human. I know I would say, like, fuck that guy. You know what I mean?
Or 10, 15 calls a day from the same person talk about the same shit. I mean, it happens. I mean, we've been there. We've done that. But, you know.
Like, you get the guys that argue with you about it?
I will jokingly tell people that, you know, before you call tech support, you really should take down more information from the system than you ever even think that you need. Because when you do have that information and you actually get on the phone with someone, you can cut that conversation down by so much if you just lay it out, you know, and get your help that you need.
We tell them that in the workflow, but, you know, that's hit or miss if they do it. At least we know. We force them to give us we force them to go through the model numbers. At least we know the model. That's kind of like forced on them to even get in the system. We used to like have a backdoor where they'd all use because, you know, human nature. At least we know the model, and then we ask them, you know, do this before you push the button. And at least maybe half of them do, but, you know, most guys are at that state are just like, you know, just want to talk to someone. But the cool part about it is that now with the AI, we encourage people, like, instead of banging your head against the wall, at least use the AI to confirm some of your things. So you're not in a complete state of disarray when you're calling tech support. And the other cool thing about tech support and AI is it's totally anonymous. So even with these corporate plans, we don't rat out Jim, right? So it's all we give the contractor the basic information of what's being asked, but not associated with a person. So we don't want to have that, we don't want to rat anybody out or have any retribution. It needs to be completely, you don't feel any nervousness about calling in. That's a really big deal because without that, people are, reluctant to call.
But I'm sure
you're free to ask any question you want. Sorry, Adam. So I mean, now you're free to ask any question you want. So without retribution on that side, but the coolest factor on the backside of that is the most impact for the business. And I'm sure you guys will understand this better than most too, is that at the end of each month, all of that reporting going through the AI and our tech support is going to be given back to the contractor, not saying, hey, Jim was asking about this 5 times or whatever the name is, but saying, hey, your team is lacking in this area, and this area. Now you can focus your training this month on those areas to strengthen your team. So now instead of going to these, just regular scheduled trainings that us veteran guys have sat in for the last 20 years and heard this shit, now we can get back to business and actually see where we're lacking and what we need to do to fix it.
Yeah. And let's face it, a lot of these younger guys are not going to have those mentors there to help them. The ones that were willing to help anyway. So it's really cool. You can actually tell Jim you saw something and he wouldn't even know you called AI or Bluon.
By the way, just real quick, I know one of your guys that lad his note said, will the AI tell me if what to do if my inducer motor is on fire? I would say go to BlueOn AI and ask it and see what it says. I'd be curious myself, but it will tell you something, that's for sure.
First put the fucking fire out.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask, what are you guys able to talk about? Do you have anything coming in the future? Are you guys working on any new magic behind the
hologram technicians that are super smart and stuff?
This is where to say it. Overtime.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think our main focus right now. Well, we're obviously this new Bluon for Business is relatively new, so we're pretty hunkered down on that and getting the word out. And that's hence one of the reasons to be on this podcast is letting contractors and techs know that this service, which really gives you the full breadth of the Bluon platform and all the knowledge that we've gained and all the support that we have access to, along with the previously reserved for distributors replacement data, which is a big deal if you're a contractor. We should actually, Logan, get a log into these guys. They can check it out after that you guys would really be. You could. It's pretty impressive. But in terms of in the future, we're working on integrated marketplace solutions that lets folks order things in real time with real time price and availability on your screen, right? Not reliant on a counter or somebody to give you a quote. And that's the holy grail, right? It's challenging to do, but that's where we're going.
Nice.
And now with
you guys can
modern
give me a login, I'll totally I'll light it right up. I'll ask all sorts of questions for you.
Yeah, we'll send you a login for the Bluon search, we call it, which is the access to the database. And on the AI, you can go to if you don't have the app, which you should, but if you don't have the app, you can go to BlueOn AI. The AI is free right now until the end of next month. We're just using it to field, information and support, but it's going to go behind the paywall after that.
So I have one last question I want to ask you before we wrap this up, Peter. As someone who came into the industry, right? We've all been in it for a long time, technicians and everything. What surprised you the most about this industry, good or bad? Like, what was the biggest surprise in your entrance into it?
Yeah, I always make a joke that there's so many things broken in the HVAC market. You have to focus because there's so many things to fix.
Yeah,
I think that was the biggest surprise, right? It's 100, depending what you're talking B2B or B2C, it's $150 billion market. So monster market, one of the biggest on the planet. And yet its technological backbone and its, way it's all put together is really antiquated, right? It's the only really giant industry left with a distribution model like this, right? Everyone else has been disintermediated for a lot of different reasons. And there's a million reasons why that's the case. It's the only place in e-commerce where the buyer needs to ask the seller what it wants to buy before it buys it because of the compatibility issues. There's so many things that are just fundamentally bizarre about HVAC due to the complexity and the fragmentation of the industry over time. It just causes all these bizarre nuances that need to get fixed so the industry can elevate and get more efficient. I mean, it's got all these inefficiencies that we all just think are there and are normal, but they're not normal. They're just HVAC, right? So getting rid of those and bringing that efficiency number up, like I mentioned before, is really what the most surprising. How inefficient it was the most surprising. And also, I'd say the second part was how spectacular the technician community was. Like, I know there's a lot of jaded folks in that community, but the vast majority of folks that I've met, and I've met tens of thousands now, are the best people out there on the planet, right? They're the best humans that this country has to offer. And it's awesome.
We got them all right here watching the show.
Yeah. No, it's not bullshit either. It sounds a little corny, but it's the real deal. I mean, particularly for me, I came from a more of a, corporate world and finance, and they're 9 times out of 10 it's a dick, right? Here, 9 times out of 10 you're dealing with a salt of the earth kind of guy.
There's Kevin asked BlueOn AI what to do.
Not bad.
Yeah,
that was good.
There you go.
Perfect.
Power up to the unit.
Hey, turn it off. Yes, please.
I mean, that's not really going to put the fire out, but it'll not have power.
So I saw Eric ask a question in there about Johnstone and some of the other suppliers. So here's the breakdown on it. So you can go to our website, go to Bluon, www.bluon.com/contractors. Pete's got a great video on there. It shows you in detail what we're talking about with Bluon for Business. But to answer that question, the database that we're providing back to the contractors now to empower them with the right data at the right time allows you all the part numbers, no matter if it's an OEM or an aftermarket replacement part, so you can make the best decision for your business to be able to go to whatever supplier is most convenient. Maybe it's a minute down the road, or maybe it's your normal guy that you deal with that you have the best relationship and he's an hour away. Whatever the choice is going to be for the contractor now. So that's where it's at for Bluon.
That's really, appreciate that, Logan. So before, right? So a year ago, if you went to the Bluon app and you found a blower motor on this 116A, blah blah blah, you would send that blower motor to the distributor, and then we would give them the replacement parts, and then they would send you back a quote on whatever the hell they had in inventory. So what Logan is saying now, we give you the replacement parts, and you can call whatever distributor you want to buy the aftermarket part, the OEM cross, the superseded part, whatever you want to do. We give you the power and control of the data. You make the call. It doesn't matter what distributor you use. You're armed with that data, and you take that research dependency away from that distributor and put it into your hands and take the control back.
I like that.
Yeah.
I definitely like it that way. When I heard the other way, it didn't make sense to me. But to be fair, I'm on the commercial refrigeration side, so things are different. So like I had to, but still, it didn't make sense. But I get it. Like I understand where.
Well, here's another great way to take it in too. So with this data, your team is now equipped to where if it's a part that they don't have, let's just say it's that labor, that inventory burden that your company's already paying for, whether it's in the warehouse or actually rolling down the road on that truck. Now you're going to have visibility to know where those parts have a home. So now you can actually make that decision in the field, in the warehouse, or even being able to go, back to your distributor.
And we've crossed pretty much, if it's a Mars, a Packard, a Century, we've done all the crossing, right? So we've added about 50 million cross-reference replacements. So you're going to find.
So you get to choose that.
You get to choose. That's right.
Cool. Yep. I like it.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for you guys to check it out when we get the logins for you guys. You can give it a test run.
Oh, cool.
Definitely. All right. Well, I think it's time that we wrap this up. I want to say thank you to both you guys for coming on here. This was really awesome.
Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it.
And I'll definitely, you guys are going to be at AHR, so we'll try to stop by and say hi. I know Adam and I will be there at some point.
For sure.
So.
Yeah. And we'll go ahead and squash this whole 6-month waiting on the hats. We'll go ahead and supply those hats for you guys.
I mean, the only reason I wanted to bring you guys on the show was
we got about 15,000 hats in the warehouse, so whatever you need, we can take care of.
I just need one.
That's a funny number too. You should ask Pete how many hats we've given away.
I think it's 170,000. Yeah.
Wow. That's insane.
As a six, you got 170,000 texts on the app right now.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
A lot of hats.
All right, I'm going to end it. Thanks so much, guys.